Coming up on Network Africa, Namibia awaits results of elections as the ruling party seeks to extend its 34-year stay. Maputo police used tear gas to disperse anti-government demonstrators amid clashes in Mozambique. Plus, Tanzanians vote in polls the opposition say is rigged. Thank you for joining us at this hour. I'm Layo Olarinde. Welcome to the program. We begin in Namibia, where votes are being counted, but polls were marred by logistical challenges, with voting continuing for an unscheduled second day in some areas. The voting, which started at 7 a.m. local time, was supposed to end at 9 p.m., but some polling stations still had a large number of voters waiting within their compounds to cast their ballot. There were also reports of ballot shortages at some polling stations. Elsewhere, local media is reporting results from some polling stations, even as Namibians are choosing a new president and also choosing new members of parliament. The interim president, Nangolo Mumba, who took over the reins of government after President Hage Geingob died, is not contesting. Ahead of World AIDS Day on December 1st, a new report by UNAIDS shows that the world can meet the agreed goal of ending AIDS as a public health threat by 2030 if leaders protect the human rights of everyone living with and at risk of HIV. Well, Sub-Saharan Africa is home to 2/3 of all people living with HIV, the heaviest HIV burden globally, which is why the Men's Forum of South Africa, Takuwani Rime, aims to correct this and get men and boys and the community to know their HIV status. If a person tests positive, they can start antiretroviral treatment immediately. HIV treatment, when taken regularly, keeps the virus at bay and a person can live a long, healthy life. Well, if the person tests negative, the nurse can prescribe PrEP, and this is a treatment that prevents HIV and is given to people at risk of infection.
No, I don't have a wife, but I have a girlfriend.
A girlfriend?
Yeah.
So, if you test negative, we have some pills called PrEP. PrEP is a drug that prevents a person from getting infected with HIV. If you take it, you know that you are safe. It won't be easy for you to be infected with HIV. If you test negative, you qualify for PrEP. But if you test positive, it's a risk. One line, it's a negative result. 2 lines, it's a positive result.
Okay, no, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
The city of Ekurhuleni in Johannesburg, South Africa, is facing challenges in maintaining a consistent electricity supply, and this is due to widespread vandalism, particularly on transformers and substations. Officials say each act of vandalism leads to costly repairs and significant delays in restoring services. Well, these concerns were raised during the Ekurhuleni Investment Conference. Our South Africa correspondent, Innocent Samosa, reports.
The city of Ekurhuleni in Johannesburg has been marred by challenges including vandalism of critical infrastructure such as power grid, water systems and telecommunications network. Now, this has posed a major issue in the city, not forgetting aging and dilapidated infrastructure, posing a major barrier to growth. Leaders and key stakeholders gathered here in Johannesburg for Ekurhuleni Investment Conference. The executive mayor of the city of Ekurhuleni, Nkosi Ndipile Agaza, says the conference seeks to foster economic growth and unlock investment opportunities within the region.
Also, the township economies, our guys from the townships are also here. They are saying, let's have a slot, let's have a conversation about ourselves. How do we drive the economy of our townships.
But while optimism surrounds the conference, there are pressing concerns from state-owned utility Eskom regarding the state of its infrastructure.
We are always fighting that war. We are always trying to there's no other mechanism. If there's a mechanism that we can actually stop it, we're willing to listen to that. But at this point, we're going to continuously try and by all means try to curb the scourge of the theft that we are seeing. So yes, one may see it as losing the battle, but we are not ready to give up the war.
The Department of Trade and Industry has raised concerns about how dilapidated infrastructure is limiting the growth of SMEs in the area.
So government could have support, but if SMEs or the enterprises don't come forward, it would remain futile. So it's important that we work together. So the enterprises should come forward and try and access what government has to offer. So that way it would help all involved.
Delegate says that while challenges remain, the commitment to building a sustainable future for the city is stronger than ever. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Innocent Samos, Channels Television News.
Clashes between protesters and police have continued on the streets of Maputo, the capital of Mozambique. The city has seen sustained unrest in recent weeks, resulting in civilian casualties. Police used tear gas to disperse demonstrators, while protesters pelted police vehicles and security forces with stones. Law enforcement forces have also reportedly used rubber bullets and live ammunition to quell the protests, while the authorities have restricted access to internet. Well, security has been tightened across the country amid looting, with an increased police presence visible on the streets. The unrest began when political opposition candidate Venancio Mondlane of the Optimistic Party for the Development of Mozambique called on supporters to block roads and go on nationwide protests. The official results of the general election declared victory for his rival, Daniel Chapo, the candidate for the ruling Front for the Liberation of Mozambique. Meanwhile, a woman was run over by a military vehicle in Maputo during the protest against October's election results. Mozambique Armed Forces admitted this in a statement that a properly marked military vehicle accidentally struck a woman where demonstrators called by opposition leader Venancio Mondlane rallied to dispute the election outcome. The statement adds that the military deeply regrets the incident and has taken the woman to Maputo Central Hospital for treatment. Rights groups have accused police of using excessive force in the post-election protests, with one local organization reporting 65 deaths in police operations. Let's head to South Sudan now, where President Salva Kiir is warning that the Tumaini talks with holdout groups in Nairobi are not intended to negotiate a parallel deal or replace the country's existing peace agreement. He was speaking at the 8th Annual Governors Forum in the capital, Juba. The president was welcomed by a high-powered audience as he arrived at the Freedom Hall to open the forum. With him were the first Vice President, Dr. Riek Machar, and other Vice Presidents, ministers, governors from the 10 states, the diplomatic community, and other stakeholders.
Accommodate these reservations, our collective vision with the signatories to the 2018 peace agreement is to bridge the gap, to understand reservations of the holdout groups, accommodate these reservations within the existing agreement, such that the Tumaini initiative become part of the existing agreement. It makes sense to say a new agreement to replace the existing one will defeat the principle of inclusivity and will lead to cycle of conflict.
We remain of the view that this pathway has a solid footing, a platform for the effective implementation of the peace agreement. The alternative pathway is that festering conflict and subnational violence continues to cause tragic loss of life and only worsens humanitarian needs across South Sudan.
Tanzanians have been voting in local government elections that are widely seen as a crucial test for the country's democratic institutions ahead of next year's presidential poll. However, the main opposition party, Chadema, has accused the authorities of vote rigging after thousands of its candidates were disqualified from running. About 31 million people are eligible to cast their ballots for more than 80,000 street and village leaders who wield considerable power in the country. A party spokesperson said there are widespread irregularities, including the stuffing of ballot boxes. Chadema reports 3 of its members killed on the eve of election and say that their party leader, Freeman Mbowe, was briefly arrested during a rally over the weekend. The current leader, President Samia Suluhu Hassan, took office after the sudden death of John Magufuli in 2021. In the Central African Republic, gunmen have killed 6 motorcycle drivers and 4 of their customers near the diamond mining town of Brea. The motorcycle drivers and their customers were returning from a religious ceremony in the town of Ipi and were heading to Brea, the capital of the Central Haute-Koto prefecture. This was when they were ambushed by unidentified gunmen. Well, no one has claimed responsibility for the attack, but the mining town of Brea has been plagued by fighting between the country's armed forces and the coalition of Patriots for Change, an anti-government militant group, in recent years. Diamond exports from the city are banned under the 2003 Kimberley process, which aims to eliminate the trade in blood diamonds that fuel conflict in Africa. The Central African Republic has been in conflict since 2013, when predominantly Muslim rebels seized power and forced then President Francois Bozize out of office. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu and his wife Oluremi Tinubu have been welcomed to France by French President Emmanuel Macron and the First Lady Brigitte Macron. President Tinubu today began a 2-day visit to France, with Nigeria and France seeking increased economic cooperation with Paris, looking to boost ties in English-speaking Africa following a series of setbacks with former allies on the continent. French President Emmanuel Macron greeted his counterpart at the historic Invalides Memorial Complex with the first official state visit by a Nigerian leader in more than 2 decades. President Tinubu, while acknowledging that Nigeria and France have a rich history of collaboration across various sectors, adds that he is eager to engage in bilateral discussions and explore new avenues for partnership that can benefit both nations. We'll take a break now on the program. Still to come, the United Kingdom opens its biggest Africa visa application center in Lagos, Nigeria. Please join us again. Welcome back to the program. We take you back to our leading story for today, the elections in Namibia. Joining us now on the program to speak more on this is Research Associate Institute for Public Policy Research in Windec, Frederico Links. Thank you so much for your time on the program.
Thank you very much for having me on the program.
Well, you're in the capital of Namibia as we speak. How would you describe the conduct of the elections so far? We understand there were some logistical challenges that made voting spill into a second day.
Yes, we've had some surprisingly problematic election process over the last yesterday. I mean, we have a single day of elections here, so it was yesterday, the 27th, and to everybody's shock and dismay, it was a day riddled with electoral problems that were totally unexpected. as Namibians, we've usually had very well organized, reasonably well organized elections. And so what happened yesterday was really people are referring to it as a mess, an electoral mess. What transpired on the 27th. And as you pointed out, this morning still people were voting because a lot of people did not get to cast their vote yesterday on election day, and polling stations had to stay open throughout the night because the long queues were still throughout the night at many polling stations.
Now, this election has been touted as the most competitive. Would you agree to this? What makes this particular election so important?
I think what we're seeing is that that this election probably is one where the expectation is that the ruling parties, its support will decline further from what happened in 2019 when it lost its 2/3 majority, and sort of the view was, even from within the party itself, that it would its popular support would decline even further in this election. Sort of what we heard informally about what the view from within the party, and so I think, and then you had some really strong contenders out there in terms of some of our opposition political parties and emerging opposition political parties, and this is now. This is why it's been considered so competitive. But of course, we'll only really see that once the results are in, which we expect to be in by the weekend. So then we'll know actually how competitive this election actually was.
Indeed, even as we wait for the results to be announced, but what would you say are the priority issues for the next leader? What should they focus on in bringing about change to the country?
Well, I think, things like high unemployment is one of them, is probably the major issue. And that unemployment and housing and healthcare and education, and then there are some issues like high rates of malnutrition and hunger, and so Namibia is a society afflicted by a lot of things. We are we're in the midst of a long-lasting drought at the moment that doesn't appear to be lifting at any time soon. So there's a lot happening. There's a lot happening in terms of socioeconomic ills that need to be addressed, that people feel the ruling party has failed to adequately get a grip of over the last 34 years. And especially when it comes to the issue of unemployment, the high youth unemployment. And there's a lot of anger. If you look at how people have expressed themselves on this over the last few years and on social media and things, the high youth unemployment is something that, because the population, most of our population is a youth population between the ages of 18 and 35, and a lot of those that constituency is actually unemployed. And this has fueled a lot of the disaffection with the ruling party. So that's what people want the next government to address as a priority.
All right, then we wait for the results, and either way it goes, it's going to be a significant one for the country, because SWAPO has a woman as the presidential candidate, so it could mean the first female president of the country, or the country changing to a new party since independence.
Yes, this in that respect, this could be sort of a historic vote if we do have our first female president. But that's still, sort of up in the air because of, the unhappiness with the ruling party. So it's really at this point, it's hard to say. Whether that is the way this will play out eventually once we have the final results.
Yes, we just have to wait and see. Thank you so much, Federico Links, the research associate at the Institute for Public Policy Research in Windhoek, Namibia. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, residents of Nigeria traveling to the UK can now book appointments to submit their visa applications through VFS Global's new state-of-the-art visa application centers located in Abuja, Ikeja, and Victoria Island, which have commenced operation since November 19th. The visa application center in Ikeja, Lagos, is to date the largest in Africa. British Deputy High Commissioner Johnny Baxter, Director of Visa Status and Information Services at UK Visas and Immigration, Mr. Mark Owen, and the head VFS Global Sub-Saharan Africa, Mr. Lok Singal, were present at the event. The UK is a popular destination for travelers across Africa, with Nigeria being among the highest nationalities by volume for UK visas, accounting for 5% of the global total. In the African region, VFS Global will provide visa application centers for the UK in 31 countries. It's getting sticky and dirty in Uganda as soft ground wrestling, SWG, surges in popularity in the Mukono municipality in the country. Otherwise known as mud wrestling, SGW was founded by a local resident, Daniel Mumbash, who was a quantity surveyor turned television presenter.
It's mud, sweat, and cheers in the Mukono municipality as promoters of the Uganda soft ground wrestling aim for global fame. Dozens of spectators watching and cheering as wrestlers compete in the local tournament. The organizer of Mukono's soft ground wrestling tournament, Daniel Mumbash, said that he was inspired to start training locals to wrestle after struggling to pursue his own dream of becoming a professional wrestler.
I've always wanted to be a professional wrestler, but because of lack of funding and because the game was not in the country, I was limited to resources and the money. So what I decided to do was to come up with a venture whereby if people could support me by translating and coming to the concert, attending, I thought I could start training wrestling since I had the nomenclature of it, and people could come.
Mumbash hopes that promoting the sport amongst the local communities will lead to Uganda becoming recognized as a hub for professional wrestling talent.
To the future of these young boys and girls, I want a very major wrestling promotion to consider Uganda as a source of professional wrestlers. Just as it is in football, that people are looking at countries like Nigeria, Ghana, I want in the world of professional wrestling, every strong and big promotion to consider Uganda.
Originating as a form of sports entertainment, mud wrestling has a history that dates back to ancient times, involving to a popular spectacle at social events.
Very many professional wrestlers come here because of the uniqueness of the ring. Most of them have been to backyard wrestling, but they've never wrestled at the soft mat, the soft ground, the natural mat. So this is unique, and people have been experiencing it to come and check out how soft the ground is, and they really liked it.
For the many young Ugandans that tangle in the mud, they dream of becoming professional wrestlers. Many of the over 100 trainees don't have a clear idea of where wrestling might lead, though they hope to represent Uganda on the global stage. Soft Ground Wrestling is a Ugandan independent professional wrestling promotion and wrestling school based in Mukono, Kirangira, Mukono district. It was founded on March 16, 2023 by local resident Daniel Bumbash, a quantity surveyor turned television presenter. As of March 2024, the school trains over 180 students.
And finally, on the program, a team of kayakers have made history with the first ever descent down Gabon's Invido River. The four-man team paddled down fast-flowing rapids and waterfalls and traveled through Africa's rainforest waterways to complete the 145-kilometer journey, marking a significant milestone in whitewater kayaking. It used drone technology to capture the remote waterfalls and rapids from various angles and perspectives, which enabled them a complete view of the river. Well, the expedition is set to be shown in a new film, Gabon Uncharted, Sending Invido Falls. Well, that is just breathtaking. And that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.